Alright, welcome back to another Read Aloud. I'm very excited to share this. So, this book that we're reading today is Black Heroes of the Wild West. This one really appeals to me a lot. This is one I actually found at my local comic book shop. And it was really exciting because it was something that it's non-fiction. So, it has to do with real history, with real people. And it is told in comic book form, which is really exciting, really engaging, and it's really relevant material for us to know about history, and something that maybe doesn't get talked about enough, and a side of history that we didn't really get to see when I was growing up. So we are going to look at Black Heroes of the Wild West, and the chapter we're going to be looking at focuses on Mary Fields. There's other black heroes that are covered in the different chapters. This one is going to be on Mary Fields. So we're going to preview a little bit of the book. So when we preview or we skim, we go through it and we look at it. For this, we're going to be looking a lot at the pictures, but also at some of the vocabulary that's going to come up. So here we're introduced to just the overall general style of a comic book. Everything's in what you would call panels, and you'll have actions or sounds will be displayed in these long lines of text. Narration is in these bubbles, and if we flip on, we'll see that their actual conversations or what they say is put in text boxes. So comic books flow just like a book does, but instead of just going from text, you're using it with panels. So you read left to right and then top to bottom. So this would be how I would read that page. So we see that she is fighting off some wolves and protecting the horses in here. Then we're moving on. This part's a little bit about someone for early life. Words that I want to point to when we get to over here. We're going to be talking about indigenous population. And indigenous population refers to people that originally lived in a place. So in this, that would be the indigenous peoples of America. And so those were the people that lived there before white settlers came and displaced them. And they also have the word assimilate, which means to, in its most simplest form, is to make similar to something else. And that can have an association with forcing someone to change cultures or to adopt a dominant culture. So moving on, we see a little bit more of her life, working in a Catholic, as a Catholic nun, her owning her business, and eventually her running a stagecoach. So that's a little preview. We're going to go ahead and get into it. So chapter 1, Mary Fields. We meet our first hero in 1898, driving a Star Route mail coach in a remote area of Montana. It's the dark of night and the temperature is 30 below zero. Suddenly, blam! Grrr, pow pow, grrr, click, grrr. Ah, nay. Whoosh. Yeah. Don't worry, girl, I'll get you loose. Hold still now. The woman who held her own against a pack of wolves that night, pacing back and forth to keep from freezing to death, was none other than the gun-toting, pants-wearing, punch-throwing Mary Fields. Mary was born into slavery on a plantation in Tennessee sometime around 1832. So that was kind of a flash forward. This is a flashback into her past. She never knew her exact birth date. A tall, strong girl, she was spared no hard labor, After emancipation, which means freedom from slavery, in 1865, she left to find work on the Mississippi River. In 1870, she was a chambermaid on a steamboat, the Robert E. Lee, when it won a famous race against another steamboat, the Natchez. Mary liked to tell stories of the crew throwing anything and everything into the furnace to build up speed, including a whole side of pork. She played her banjo in support of her favorite politicians. Though black men had the right to vote, no woman of any race could. But Mary was going to make her voice heard. After a few years, Mary went back to Tennessee to help a couple she knew, Judge Emmett Dunn and his sick wife, who were raising 5 children. When the children's mother died, they were sent with Mary to the Ursine Catholic Convent in Toledo, Ohio, to live with their aunt, Sarah Doon. Mary and Sarah's sister Adamaeus became very close, but in 1884 the sister was promoted to Mother Superior and sent to run a mission in Cascade, Montana. So this is a map of the U.S. And these brown places right here were actually territories at the time in 1870 as opposed to states. Montana was still a territory where settlers were encouraged to come to displace the indigenous population. So that is like the native people. The Ursuline nuns were tasked with teaching literacy and Catholic values to Native American children to make them assimilate into European American culture. Conditions were so rough that Mother Adamaeus soon fell sick from exhaustion. The 5 or 6 week trip was risky for anyone, but as soon as she heard of her friend's illness, Mary was on her way. So this is where she went from Ohio all the way to Montana. When Mary arrived at St. Peter's Mission, it was far from finished. She rushed to the side of her sick friend. "Rest and just leave everything to me." Mary set to work on the mission grounds. It wasn't easy, but the 53-year-old was no stranger to hard work. Few were on hand with the skills to build and dig and tend to animals. Mary's strength and drive inspired all around her. She took on all the men's jobs, but her greatest passion was attending to the kids. Soon the children were just as attached to her as she was to them. Back in Toledo, Mary had been called Black Mary because of the clothes she always wore. In Montana, Native Americans called her White Crow because they said she acts like a white woman but has black skin. In fact, as the only woman in any of the many saloons of nearby Cascade, she demanded and got the respect usually reserved for white men. "Read 'em and weep, boys. Bull. You calling me a cheat? Zing! Pow!" News of Mary's gunplay did not please Montana's Bishop, John Brondell. In 1894, after 10 years of unwavering devotion, Mary was told to leave the mission. That can be frustrating, especially after how important she was to it. That could be a time to reflect. Was there ever something that you did that you got kicked out of or asked to leave and it was frustrating? That would be a good time to reflect on that. Alright. Mother Adamaeus helped her open a restaurant in nearby Cascade. "You boys have another before you leave. It's cold as all get out today." That's an expression. I don't know if any of y'all have heard that, but all get out, it means that it's really cold. My grandmother said that a lot. "Thank you kindly, Mary. Tonight you've got to give me a chance to pay off my tab with some poker." Don't worry your mind about a tab. I ain't gonna let you work that homestead hungry." As tough as she could be, Mary's generosity was also legendary. She extended her cash-strapped dinners so much credit that she went bankrupt not only once but twice. She took in washing to earn money. Tap tap. Money that she quickly spent on whiskey, cigars, and cards. "Hey, where is my money?" Pow! "Now his laundry bill is paid. Next hand is yours, Mary." "But don't you think the Lord wants me to get my just pay? I think the Lord would like a limit to the laying on of hands, Mary. Did you see the sign for the new mail route to the mission? Hitch a team of horses faster than anyone else, and you can keep those hands busy delivering mail rather than smiting deadbeat men. Gentlemen, I do believe we have a new record." Excuse me. Stagecoach Mary, as she was well known, was only the second woman and the first African American in U.S. history to drive a highly sought after star route. She never missed a delivery. When a blizzard made the road impossible for horses, she strapped on snowshoes and off she went. Everyone in town knew and trusted her. At age 70, she quit the mail coach and opened a laundry in her home. As a skilled gardener, she always made bouquets for her beloved baseball team. She even became their mascot. As a former slave, Mary never knew her exact birthday. She was so loved in Cascade that the school would close and the town would celebrate whatever date she'd come up with once or twice a year. Happy birthday. The actor Gary Cooper, who remembered meeting her when he was a 9-year-old boy, said she may have been born a slave, but she lived to become one of the freest souls to ever draw breath, or a 38 millimeter. Black Mary, White Crow, Stagecoach Mary, who was Mary Fields? Whoever she wanted to be. Alright, well, thank you for tuning in to enjoy this book with me. Please look in the description for some discussion questions and activities that you can do based off of this. But thank you.